Breaking news. Liam Lawson has finally broken his silence after enduring a string of disappointing eliminations in the 2025 Chinese Grand Prix. The young driver admitted frustration over his poor performance at the Shanghai International Circuit, sparking questions about his future in Formula One. Meanwhile, Red Bull team principal Christian Horner has addressed growing rumors regarding a sudden driver swap between Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson. With Lawson underwhelming in the early stages of the season, speculation has intensified over whether Red Bull will make an unexpected move to replace him. Let's discuss, and stay tuned until the end. Liam Lawson endured another frustrating outing in qualifying at the Chinese Grand Prix, marking his third consecutive Q1 elimination since stepping into the Red Bull seat. The young Kiwi struggled through a difficult session in Shanghai, ultimately finishing as the slowest driver on the grid, compounding what has been a challenging return to Formula One. Having already suffered disappointment in sprint qualifying on Friday, where he finished dead last, Lawson managed some damage control in the sprint race itself, climbing to 14th. However, his hopes of turning the weekend around were dashed in the main qualifying session, where he ended up 20th, with a lap time 1 point to seconds adrift of Lando Norris's Q1 benchmark and a concerning 8/10 off what teammate Max Verstappen managed in the other RB21. Consigned to watching the remainder of qualifying from the garage, Lawson could only observe as Verstappen fought at the sharp end, ultimately securing 4th place and missing pole by less than 0.2 of a second. For Lawson, the stark contrast in performance was another bitter pill to swallow, and he offered an unflinching self-evaluation in the aftermath of his early exit. Speaking to Sky F1 following his elimination, Lawson was brutally honest about his difficulties in adapting to the RB21, acknowledging the mounting pressure as he attempts to make an impression in only his second weekend with the Milton Keynes outfit. "I think it's just time. Unfortunately, I don't really have time, but it's just one of those things. Driving a Formula One car takes 100% confidence in what you're doing." Lawson's remarks reflect the enormous expectations placed upon him, not just from Red Bull, but also from himself. While the team is hoping for steady progress, the reality of stepping into one of the most competitive cars on the grid has proven to be a steep learning curve. His reference to time, or the lack thereof, suggests he is aware of the internal expectations for him to contribute points and remain within a few tenths of Verstappen, a target he has yet to come close to meeting. Despite his struggles, Lawson was keen to clarify that his confidence hasn't disappeared. However, he admitted that he has yet to fully unlock the potential of the RB21. "It's not that I don't feel confident, but the window is so small that, right now, I just seem to miss it. I just need to get a handle on it. I don't know how else to put it, it's just not good enough." His words underline the razor-thin margins at the highest level of motorsport. While Red Bull has worked tirelessly to improve the drivability of the RB21, especially following Verstappen's difficulties with last year's car, the operating window remains incredibly narrow. For an inexperienced driver like Lawson, that fine balance has proven elusive. "It's just really tough, honestly. I think the window is really small. That's known, but it's not an excuse. I've got to get a handle on it." Lawson also pointed to external factors that hampered his performance in Q1, particularly traffic, but made it clear that even without those issues, the end result was unlikely to be good enough. "It was a messy session. Had we not dealt with traffic and stuff like that, it might have been okay. But to be honest, it's still not good enough. To be having those issues and that being the reason we get knocked out, when we should be fast enough on our first lap, it shouldn't be an issue. I just need to get on top of it." With each passing weekend, the pressure only grows for Lawson to justify his seat in the Red Bull setup. His next opportunity comes at Suzuka, a circuit that will at least offer some familiarity, unlike the unfamiliar venues of Australia and China that have made up his first two races. Despite the rough start to his return, there are those in the paddock who believe Lawson still has what it takes to prove himself at this level. Former F1 driver and broadcaster Guido van der Garde, speaking to PlanetF1.com, was quick to defend the young driver, citing difficult circumstances beyond his control. "I think it's more circumstances. We know that he had the pressure last year, he had to jump in and show himself straight away, and he did it." Van der Garde remains convinced that Lawson's raw talent is not in question, but acknowledges that a combination of high expectations and a steep learning curve has made for a tough beginning to his season. "I think he has the capacity to do well, and I don't see any issue. He just needs time." However, as Lawson himself acknowledged, time is not a luxury many drivers are afforded in the ruthless world of Formula One, with Red Bull closely monitoring his progress. The coming races will be crucial in determining whether the young Kiwi can rise to the challenge or if his struggles will continue to mount. Meanwhile, Christian Horner was put on the spot about Liam Lawson's future at Red Bull following his disappointing qualifying performance in China, with speculation mounting that Yuki Tsunoda could replace him due to Lawson's struggles in his first 2 races of the season. Lawson lined up in the final grid spot for the sprint on Saturday and will do so again on Sunday after being eliminated in Q1 for Grand Prix qualifying. It marks his 2nd consecutive last-place start, raising questions about whether he is the right fit for the team. The New Zealander had never driven a lap of the Shanghai International Circuit before this weekend, but he admitted his session was not good enough as he prepares to start at the back of the grid for Sunday's race. Despite making some progress in the sprint to finish 14th, his underwhelming performances have sparked concerns within the Red Bull camp. Rumors have emerged that Red Bull is already considering replacing Lawson with Yuki Tsunoda, who has shown flashes of potential at RB this season. When asked about Lawson's struggles, Horner acknowledged the difficulties but stopped short of confirming any immediate changes. "It's been a tough day in the office for him today. So we'll have a good look at it and go through it and obviously try and give him the best car we can for tomorrow." However, when Sky's Ted Kravitz pressed Horner on whether Lawson was living up to expectations and whether a change was imminent, the Red Bull boss remained non-committal. "As I say, we'll have a good look at it and we'll do what we can to help him." At the front of the grid, Max Verstappen qualified 4th for Red Bull as he aims for another podium finish in his latest title defense. The Dutchman admitted that McLaren's duo and George Russell were faster in qualifying, but Horner suggested that Red Bull could capitalize on strategy given the tire degradation issues at the Shanghai circuit. On the overall performance, Horner added, "It's pretty tight at the front there, and I think we tried a few things to hopefully help in the race tomorrow. A 10th or so off pole. We were purple in the first sector, but unfortunately, we didn't quite have enough in the tire at the end of the lap. So yeah, encouraging. These tires are so sensitive, and we saw in the sprint race earlier, different graining, different cars working in different ways, and so I don't think pole position is essential for this race. It's all going to be about strategy, and it's going to be about that front left tire." For Lawson, Sunday's race will be crucial, as he fights not only to score points but also to convince Red Bull's management that he deserves to keep his seat amid growing speculation that Tsunoda could be drafted in to replace him.